is what you got.
Durag Diaries, yo, what's good, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Spurs-Of-The-Moment. It's been a while. It has damn sure it's been a while since I've done one of these shows. And I thought, look, we're going to try and make this a regular. We're going to try and get some more of these shows done. But I thought there's no better man to get onto this show than my fellow guest, man like Luke, Spotlight on Spurs, the guy that's blowing up in the Spurs scene right now, Mr. 1K. How are you doing, bro?
I'm not too bad, mate. I'm not too bad. How are you? What an intro, by the way.
Yeah, no, I'm not too bad, bro. Not too bad. As people know, it's been a busy day of streamings, and it doesn't stop here. Spur of the moment right now. Make sure you smash the likes on your way in, people. Make sure you subscribe to Luke, who's... Let me just make sure the link is working, because sometimes the link don't work. So I'm just going to make sure the link is working to his channel in the title. And look, we're going to slap it in the description as well, so you guys can't even miss it. Yep, look, there we go. So it's in the title, it's in the description. Make sure you follow. I was going to say follow. We don't do follow of it. Make sure you subscribe to Luke's channel. But look, let's get into everything, because the world of Spurs right now, some may say it's exciting. Spurs are moving. Spurs are inquiring. Spurs are investigating. Spurs are doing everything. And some would say bot sign players. But we've had a signing. Signing number 2 of the window has been confirmed. Man like Takai, Kota Takai. I think that's how we're going to say it. What do you think of him, Luke? What do you think of Spurs' second signing of the window?
Soon as it was announced, I went on YouTube. Best centre back I've ever seen. Probably best centre back the world's ever seen. I didn't see a single error in the 10-minute video that he made. So he's obviously an absolute superstar. Now, to be fair, I had a little look. He does seem decent. See some of the stats. And yeah, he looks decent, but there's levels to this game. I'm always smiling. Why wouldn't I be? We're European champions, baby. Yeah, so it's one of them. There's levels, isn't there? So regardless of how good or bad someone looks in videos, when they're stepping up levels, it's whether they can step up the levels, I guess. Slightly surprised to hear that it's almost expected that he goes straight into the first team setup. That is a little bit surprising to me, to be honest. But hey, we'll see how it plans out. You never know. This could be another Bergvall type. Give him a few months and he's settled in and exploding. Let's all hope that's the case.
It's exactly that there. Like you said, I think when we look into it, the most expensive player to ever come out of the J League. Yeah. I mean, it's sounding nice. It's sounding nice when you go off, if you want to build the narrative from there. But more than anything, look, we have to be realistic. I don't think any Spurs fan would have watched the kid. He's young. He's up and coming. He's playing in a smaller league, and he's supposed to excel in those types of leagues if he's going to be a player that plays in Europe. So it's expected that he would be a decent... I suppose a decent level above the current crop of players that they have over there. I don't know if you saw the stats, but I saw a stat reel of basically him saying he's the top. He leads the under-23 centre-backs for pretty much everything. When you talk about goals, assists, passing from the back, just all of the type of stats that you can think. I just saw 1. So if you look at that, I mean, then you would believe that this is a top centre-back coming through. But like you said there, we're trying to replicate the type of signings that we've done with Udogie, with Papsar, with Bergvall, potentially what we could see. Well, I wouldn't say Archie Gray because he's more of a high-profile signing, £40 million, but £5 million. It's not a big risk ultimately. And look, what side do you sit on, Luke? Because there's two sides to this coin. You can be the fan that we're signing another unknown player. Or it could be the side of, Spurs are doing what people have asked Spurs to do, like Brighton and Brentford, and make these smart acquisitions using the data and picking up players on the cheap.
Yeah, you can't have this both ways. Like we're a club that have sat there to kind of bridge that gap. We're the club that have sat there and gone, how are Brighton picking up Matomas? How are Brighton picking up your centre midfielders? You like, first of all, it was Basuma that they picked up. Then they go and pick up like other players, and the same with Brentford. They all just go and pick up these stars, and they're not stars. Then no one's heard of them. They're barely, they're a couple of million, and then all of a sudden, Matoma's £90 million. Do you know what I mean? Baliba, all of these players are now worth fortune. And Mbuemo, Wissa, and then I'm also seeing fans then go, "Oh, why are we moving like that?" And it's like, well, you can't. That's how it works. Like when Brighton signed all these players, they didn't know they were. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so, but then the caveat to that is you can't really judge this until we get to the end of the window. Now, a lot of people didn't want Tell. You've obviously got Danzo was an obligation anyway. This fella's come in. Now, if we go and sign as a Semenyo, get a 6, then these sorts of players are kind of on the back burner. No one really mentions it. Whereas if we don't go and sign these players, and these are the guys that are coming in, then you sit there with like Levy talking about Champions League and thing. Obviously, then it's. But you can't really judge it now. Do you know what I mean? As I say, for me, I don't understand the big hoo-ha, to be honest. Like, it's not a £30 million player. It's not like this budget. We lost this budget, and we can't now go and spend it on someone else. It's £5 million. It's virtually nothing. So, just people.
That's it right there. Like, it's virtually nothing. We see Chelsea go out there and spend bloody 100 million on about 20 players like this. And I see our fans all the time on Twitter and so on. They're like, "Oh, why can't we get this up and coming player? Why aren't we signing more up and coming young players?" When Spurs go do it, Spurs fans complain and they make a big deal about it. And it's like, these are just signings that you make. Investments. They're investments in the club. They're investments in the future. Some of them work. Some of them don't work. And let's have it right. If he doesn't work out, hey ho, it's £5 million, people. We've just seen Alejo Vélez join us 2 years ago, do absolutely nothing in the 2 years to warrant the 10 million that we paid for him. But if it did work out, we'd be laughing. It didn't work out. It is what it is. You recoup some of the millions and you keep it moving. It's just one of those deals that you've got to accept is part of football. And if we want to be a big club, big clubs make these types of signings often. Our club has done this every single year. And yeah, look, I know there's some people going out there saying, look, Spurs are trying to get a hold of the Asian market. That might be a part to it too. But Spurs have always done this. You always see Spurs go to smaller footballing nations, picking up players and trying to maintain that fan base or build a fan base in those countries. We've seen it when we got Berbatov, went and got him from Bulgaria. We went and got Modric from Croatia. We just got Vuskovic from Croatia, Bergvall from Sweden. Like, we pick up a lot of these young players from smaller nations. They're usually one of the best players coming out of the nation. And it's just like, let's give them the chance. Let's see if it works out. We got Vuskovic coming in. He's young. He's up and coming centre back. And now we got Takai as well. Now, Takai, sorry. There's a few people that I've seen not really like that. They seem to do this thing, and I know you've probably seen it, is, oh, we're blocking this player's pathway. So because we've signed Takai, it's like Dorrington and Phillips aren't going to get no chances. What do you think about that narrative that's now going around, Dorrington and Phillips are not going to get a chance because Takai's here?
Well, you just touched on it just there, just about the whole signing thing, about them coming over and we're just looking at the Asian market. The facts is that not every player that's Asian goes in and becomes a national superstar. That doesn't happen. It's not just like, oh, they could be any old player. So the facts is that we're only going to cash in commercially if they become a good player. And that's kind of why you buy a player anyway. So that whole thing just, I don't understand it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's different if you was going to buy a player that was, say, 33 because they were a superstar, and then they would, on the decline, say we signed Son now, then I'd get it, because you're like, oh, you're just buying into the market where he's such a... But we've bought a youngster that's played 6 times for Japan. We're not talking about someone who's played hundreds of times and is an icon. Yeah. So that whole thing's crazy. And then the whole blocking of the pathways, I've said this before, Spurs fans are... There's no middle ground with Spurs fans. They're either crazy overhyped players, crazy underhyped players. That's it. There's no middle ground. So Ashley Phillips, for instance... I spoke to us on my channel. I went to virtually all of the loan clubs that we had players out on loan, and went to their fans. Like one of them, like all of them were YouTubers, and I was like, "Can you just come on and give your opinion on how that season went?" And the Stoke fan was like, "I think they finished 5th bottom, 6th bottom," and he was like, "Yeah, Phillips is all right. He's decent. If we got him on loan, yeah, maybe." He's not going to come in playing for a Champions League club. So if he's not going to come play, don't worry about it. And the facts are, is if he is good enough, then he will play. I've always been like of the that, like with Moore, for instance. Say we've got a player there that's more is X level. We've got a player that we're going to sign who's one level above. That doesn't make any sense to me. There's no point doing that because Moore should grow into that player. But if we're signing a player that's if we've got a player that's like a championship level player, then signing a Premier League player is not a negative thing because they're not good enough. They're not good enough yet. But we do this with all our youngsters. Like, it's just absolutely crazy to me. Like, we do it all the time. There's so many of our youngsters that people are just like, oh, he should be starting. He should be starting. Lancashire was another one. Oh, he should have been getting minutes this season. So West Brom, he didn't even start for West Brom. So let's just calm it down a little bit. Do you know what I mean? So, and as I say, if they're good enough, they'll eventually play. No one blocks all the top players. No one blocks their pathway because the club will make the pathway for them, and it's down to the player to make that pathway too.
No, it's exactly that. It's down to the player to prove that he's ready to compete. And it's like you said there. Will Lancashire played for West Brom. He didn't score a goal, didn't get an assist. It's not. I'm not saying he's not a bad player. I'm not saying he's not good because he could potentially be good. But if these players are as good as many people think in this fan base, and they think these young players are amazing, and I don't know if you saw, there was one mad list going around Twitter the other day, and I wish I bookmarked it, to be fair, because it was a list of like the past academy graduates for like the last 8, 9, maybe even 10 years. You got Harry Kane at Bayern, and then the next one's up, you got Madueke called Chelsea, and then the next best ones are Skip and Winks because they're at Leicester. All the rest of the players are in League One, League Two, Championship, bloody Eredivisie, all these other leagues in and around Europe. That's not at the top level. We've got literally about 5 academy graduates in 10 years that are playing in top 5 leagues right now. So that goes to show that the young players aren't as good as what many people think. And like you said there, Mikey Moore, I think he's one player who you can really tell he probably is ready to be at the level of competing with the first team. But still, I'm not mad at us signing Tell, potentially signing Eze, Semenyo, blocking his pathway because we don't need more right now. I'm sorry, Moore's not Yamal. He's not. If he was a 17-year-old that was really about it, he would be in this first team commanding the role like Yamal does for Barcelona. He makes you think there's no other player out there that could ever take his place. Mikey Moore's not doing that. So we need to realize some of these players need to prove themselves. I think a good loan out to I wouldn't say a top European club, but like a good European club, someone at a mid-level Europa League, Conference League level would be good for Mikey Moore to go out on loan and then come back to Spurs after gaining that experience. But regarding those positions, some of those players I did just mention and who we could potentially look to bring in. I'm not sure if you did see, but today Florian Plettenberg did release pretty much confirmed what we already knew, but that Spurs are monitoring Eze pretty closely. He's one of the top options for us, and he's one of our top targets. What do you think of Eze and the potential of him coming to Spurs?
I like Eze. A lot of this depends on what system Frank goes with. And this is the thing, like there's so many people making assumptions that we know where he's going to go and how he's going to play, but we don't know that. So will Eze be the perfect... I've seen some people say about Eze that there's potentially not the perfect role for him at Spurs in terms of if we was to play the 4-2-3-1, because he's more of like a left that, he kind of like 5 at the back where you've got 2 10s. That's his kind of perfect position, but he can operate from the left hand side. He can operate central, depending on what kind of game you're going for. He could be, as I say, one of the 10s. So I'd love him, but the facts is that we need a forward player and we need someone that's going to change the game. Eze, Mbuemo looks like he's probably gone, but Semenyo, the fact that we need one of these players, like we need that type of player who's going to come in and instantly improve the 11. And that's the problem. And someone mentioned it earlier about squad depth. The thing is, the way that Spurs have been operating, the way that we've been getting squad depth has just been incorrect because we keep buying squad players. What we need to do is buy the first 11 players, which then make the first 11 players squad players. That's how you improve your team. You can't just keep having better squad, a better squad. Because if your first 11's not good enough, it don't matter about your squad. So it is a hard one to balance. And what you just said about like the young players and everything else, as I say, we can keep bringing in young players all the time, but then you can't complain if we don't compete because the young players are not necessarily ready. So, and the other thing about that is, with regards to the loan players, we've had a problem for so long in terms of getting the right loans. And this has been the biggest problem that we've had in terms of, you look at Dane Scarlett, if you remember rightly, when Mourinho was about, he said that Dane and Devine are the only players that are coming anywhere near the first team level. None of them are good enough. All the rest of the players are basically not good enough. And Scarlett, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to guess he's had 6 loans and not one's been successful.
Yeah,
Devine was successful at
Ipswich, Oxford, Portsmouth. Neither of them were good. The thing is with Dane is he's had little moments in those spells where he'll go a couple games where he's scoring goals and it's like he disappears for the next 10. And that's a struggle. And I'm like, what is missing from both of them? Because like you said there, Mourinho called them both out. I remember when they were both 16. Both made early appearances. Devine scored in his debut against Marine, and it was like, yo, we might finally have a star boy back amongst us. We haven't had this in a long time, and Devine's now been away with Vuskovic, and to be fair, from what I've heard, he's generally not been that great. Like he's not been pulling up trees over in that league, and I'm struggling. I'm just like, what's going on with some of these young players? Because like you said, Dale, what do you think some of the problems is with the loans? What should Spurs do to change that?
I think part of it is that we're so eager to, like, let's just be clear, and some people don't fully understand this. When you're dealing with a 17, 18-year-old, it's completely different to managing a 22-year-old. They're completely different level. What they require, what they need, how much game time they need, the pressure, everything is completely different. So, for instance, Mikey Moore, it was absolute screaming, oh, we need to play, he should have been playing more. Yeah. But he didn't need to play him. Moore is more than happy with how much minutes he's played. He's come out and said that to people close to him. Like, he's 17 years old and he's featured 20 times for Tottenham Hotspur. Like, it's just madness. So even like the Ajayi one, that's what I kept hearing. It's like, we don't have any wingers. Why ain't Ajayi playing? And I'm like, go and check the League 2 stats, the Premier League 2 stats. Go and check how good he's doing. Because we were full from bottom, and in like 22 games, he had like 3 goal involvements. He's just signed on loan to a League 1 club. And that's the problem, is that, again, we just overhype players all of the time. But I think our big problem is that we try and target like big clubs for them to go and play for. Like, oh, yeah, we've got, like, let's say, like, it was different this year. We've done it differently, which is exactly what we need. But we'll go and we'll target, oh, who's the biggest club in the Championship? Let's go and loan a player to them. It's like, they don't need that. All they need to do is be able to play against men. Look at Harry Kane's loans. None of them were really successful, but he was playing pretty much. The Leicester one was pretty poor, but most of the games he was playing, it was just learning how to use your body. You're playing against men, this physicality. How do I do this? How do I shield? And it's not necessarily the levels. Like, if you go between like League 2, League 1, there's not huge jumps between the quality, really. There's not massive jumps. So you just need someone who's playing week in, week out. And I think we've done that with Devine. I think he came in, he was playing for, I can't remember who he's playing for, but he's playing week
he had a good loan, man.
I know Port Vale. He was on loan at Port Vale. He was playing week in, week out. He was getting man of the match most weeks. They was like loving him off, saying he was brilliant, excellent. And then get to January and we went, no, I'll tell you what, we're going to take you now and we're going to put you somewhere else. And then he didn't play. And it's like, you just wasted 6 months of his career just because you wanted to up him so quickly. And that was what I was worried they were going to do with like your Donnelly and Keeley and all of that. So we need to just get them playing. They need to have good relationships with the clubs. Leyton Orient is a prime example. How Leyton Orient have not been signed up as like an affiliate club and just said, look, we're going to send you all the loans. Over the years, they're I
definitely think there's something behind closed doors. Not an official affiliate, but there's definitely something behind closed doors, because Spurs have always loaned players to Leyton Orient for the past 15 years or so. Like, so I suppose because it's a local club to us, and it makes sense at that level. But yeah, there's got to be something behind closed doors with those.
But utilize that more. Utilize that, like, especially when they're so close. Like, that's why apparently why they went with Yang to QPR was because they're basically in London still.
Yeah.
So he's still adapting. You don't want to get him into a new country, then send him to a different part of the country that he's actually going to be living in and everything else. So we just need to be a bit cleverer with that and not worry so much about who he's playing against and everything else. Make sure, like, try and get so that the system fits well, the style similar if you can, but it's just about playing minutes. That's all that they need to do, is just play minutes. And then they'll come back to Tottenham and they'll be in a better. But also, every single youth player that's brought through the club, they're not there to come into the first team. It's such a rarity, as you've just named. It's such a rarity to happen. But if you can bring in 2 or 3 young players and sell them for 5 or 6 million each, that's 20 million that you've now got to go and sign play. Like, this is what it's all about. It's not just about bringing players into this first team. It's also about selling them on, picking up bits here and there. Marcus Edwards, you get a sell-on fee. Like, that's the whole idea of it. It's not strictly just they have to be in the first team and be good enough.
No, definitely. I'm just laughing at Kengis. Kengis says, forget all of this chat. Eze is a bum. What's Nico Cranchar saying up to nowadays? Bell Tom Huddleston. You know what? I hear it. I definitely hear what you're saying. Like, Nico Cranchar was a baller, bro. Definitely a baller. But back to the Eze stuff. I think Eze is a maverick that Spurs have been missing since the likes of Van der Vaart, the Bales, as Sava said it earlier, even Eriksson. Missing someone that's just in that midfield that creates from nothing, someone who could shoot, give you a weldy, but also is just that in the final third, it's all action. And that's what I miss. I miss having a player like that. I feel like Spurs used to always be that club that we had all action players in the final third. Our defense may not have been the best. Our midfield might not have been the best. But in the final third, there was always someone that was, all action. We thought Maddison was going to come in to do that role. He hasn't done it. But like you said there, I think for Eze, going back to that stuff, there's multiple roles that he could be used in within this Spurs system. I think for me, going back to what you said as well with regards to the depth, we need to sign first team players who then push down the current first team players and they become the depth. Because ultimately, we're not playing Europa League people. We're not playing just Premier. We're going Champions League next year. We're in a different level. We're taking that step up. When what we was doing in Europa League is not acceptable at the Champions League level. We're going to be playing some top sides, and we need to be performing week in, week out. On top of, we're going to have a few of these games against the likes of maybe a Barcelona, maybe a Real Madrid, maybe a Bayern. You need players like Eze who can come in and do something. So I think Eze would be a great option for us. But in that same tweet that Plettenberg did tweet out, he said that he's one of many options. Now, one of the other options that has been confirmed from one of the top sources in David Ornstein, Spurs are looking at Semenyo. Semenyo is a player we really admire. It's a player that Frank, to be fair, once Frank was confirmed, it was the first player that I saw. We want Mbuemo or we want Semenyo. Before we go into Mbuemo stuff, what do you think about the potential of Semenyo and what he could bring to Spurs?
It's a tough one with Semenyo. What he offers, and this is the problem with all the players that we've been linked with. They all have a very different trait. They've got a very different playing style. Like Eze is obviously the more maverick, and Mbuemo is obviously off the right, cutting in from the left. Semenyo is a bit more pace, power. He seems like he's got a really good, strong shot on him. That sort of stuff beats his man quite well. But then, is he a player that you want to kind of have in, say, you've got a low block and there's not space to run in behind? Yeah, Eze's probably the man for that. So I feel like it depends on who you're coming up against may suit their characteristics. I like him. I'm not sure £70 million like him, to be honest. I think if you've got £70 million and that's the guy you go to, there's probably, it's that Prem tax. Just targeting any Bournemouth players just doesn't make any sense to me at the moment. When they've lost Kirkes, they've lost Huysen, they're going to lose Abani. There's been talk about Kluivert. Like, they're just financially have got no reason to sell. Like, there's just none there. So if you're basically getting a player from Bournemouth now, then they're happy to lose them for that because they've got no other reason to sell. They don't need it financially. They're all on long-term contracts. So if Bournemouth are happy to lose the player for the price you're willing to pay, that for me says is it right for you to pay that amount of money then? Do you know what I mean? But this is not to say he's a bad player. I like him. And obviously, once the money's paid for, then fans don't really care. We're not caring how much we're playing. But if someone said, oh, you can only get one, and he's your one, which means you then don't get a good enough quality 6 or something like that, then it's like, is it really worth doing that? Is it worth going all out and spending 70 on? I mean, we've done it with Solanke. A lot of people are like, we shouldn't have done that. They got 60 for him. So I like him. I think he's got good traits. I think he will be very effective in certain systems. But my worry is that if we come up against teams with a low block, then I'm not sure whether he's got that sort of, what you said, exactly that with Eze. I don't know if he's just got that star magic, that star quality to be able to just like slice a team open and put us one up, for instance.
Yeah, no, I definitely think there's some bits about his game that I question. You know, he's probably one of the players who I look at and is just like, they're not that clean in the final third. Like, he can bulldoze through the midfield, he can dribble, he can run. But when you get into the final third, the assist and the actual finish isn't as clean as, like, say, an Eze or Mbuemo. But when you look at the options, whether it could be... Because I'm of the thought that we need Semenyo and Eze. You need two players. Yeah. When we bring Eze in, we need another winger at a top level who can really add to the attack. Because if we're bringing in Eze, it's either we need to bring in another good winger or another good striker. Because right now, I'm just not really convinced with our front line. And with Frank, it might take a step forward, but I'm just not convinced with the players that we have available. But if you had to choose between Semenyo and Eze, just to confirm, who are you going for?
I'd probably go with Eze. I probably would go with Eze, but I do think that we need someone who has some characteristics of Semenyo as well. I think we need a player that, we've said it all season, like, we just don't have wingers that beat their man. And we need the player where you're a right back and you're going, oh, do you know what? I'd rather not come up against him today. Like, the right back coming up against Eze, he's probably going like, I'm just going to shift him in field and I'm going to let the centre backs deal with that and the defensive midfielder deal with that. He's not really going to like test me one-on-one really. Whereas with a Semenyo, you can imagine a right back being like, oh, Lord, like, he's just going to run through me sort of thing. So I definitely think we need that sort of player. So I would pick Eze, and Eze would be my guy that I'd go to, because you're right about the whole, we've always had these sorts of players. I mean, throughout the whole of the Premier League era, you go through like some of the players that we've got no right to have them. Like your Bowles, your Modric's, your Dembele's, like, we've just had top players in that kind of like in the top half of the pitch sort of thing. So we need more of them. And we also need to be able to just create out of nothing. So I would go with Eze, but you're right. We absolutely need to get another winger in. And one for me that's kind of a specialist in a 1v1.
Well, definitely that. I think when like you said it there, we need a 1v1 specialist. I think we have some good young players coming through. Like you said, more Yamin Hyok, Tel Odebert, but they're just not at the required quality for us to be convinced that the level we're trying to compete, that this is the right guy. So there's no doubt about that. I think we've got a few decent players here. Semenyo or Eze would be a huge upgrade, and one of them is needed, but I think both of them would be ideal. But this is Spurs, so I don't want to get my hopes up too much and start thinking we're spending £150 million on two Premier League players, because we might be asking a bit too much. There is also another player. There is no deal officially done at the moment for him, but man, like Mbuemo, who I know you're a huge fan of, some may say, because, hey, I was seeing Luke doing searches. Luke was doing special searches, people. So I think Luke might be a huge fan. And we need some explanations, Luke. We need some explanations, because it looks like you're more than a fan of Mbuemo. Maybe a bit more fan of his football skills.
I'm the guest. I'm just here to guess. That's all I'm here to do. Like, you're in charge now. You're the one pulling it up. I don't know why you are, but hey, maybe you just want to look at it. I'm not sure. I'm just saying that we was having a conversation. The conversation went quiet, and then all of a sudden, this is what pops up on the screen. And I was like, whoa, hold that. But I hadn't even noticed that before, to be fair. So I wouldn't have even said that was a statement by me.
He says he ain't noticed it. He smiled. It might be under investigation because the smile was a bit much. Like you've seen that. You know what he's talking about. I don't know.
Because the conversation finished. That's why the conversation finished. I was like, whoa, hold up. Then the conversation finished. We're talking about something else. And then all of a sudden, there's this web link that pulls up. And I was like, whoa, this needs to chill. But I am a fan of Mbuemo. I think he'll be very good. I think with you was discussing it earlier about Porro. When you've got a fullback that's got his capabilities and his characteristics, then you cater the team around that to make sure that defensively you make sure you're solid defensively in other areas. So for me, if you've got an Mbuemo type on the right wing coming inside with Porro on the overlap, for me, I think that's a really, really good setup. The only thing that I would caveat that with a little bit is what worries me about Mbuemo is that his XG he outperformed his XG so much this year. His XG was something like 9 or 10 and he hit 20 or something mad like that. So he's like doubled his
some
XG.
of the goals he scored, man. Like even you remember that goal he scored against us in like the first 30 seconds. Like some of the goals he was scoring were just unreal. So I think those are the types of goals that have 0.2 XG. His XG is going to be really low.
But then you look at it and go, well, how are we going to do with Mbuemo what we've done with Solanke in terms of get a player in that's almost had his one season? Like, I think Solanke will be better next year, and I think he's a decent striker. But a lot of people are basically saying, like, we bought one guy who had one decent season, and are we now going to do that with Mbuemo? Is he ever going to hit them numbers again? Now, obviously, Frank will know this. Frank will know whether he's just hit levels that he's not going to reach again, sort of thing. So I think if you bring him in, then obviously Frank has the faith in him. But stylistically, I think he suits perfectly with Porro. And then you just have to you've got your two midfielders who will need to cover the space that he leaves. So, but I like him. I think if we can get Mbuemo and Eze, then that for me is out of the three. There's been Kudos mentioned as well, but out of them four, they would be the two that I'd pick. I think it would just stylistically match up with what we were looking to do.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think Mbuemo, I don't have a fear personally of Mbuemo potentially being a one-season wonder because I feel like I've seen him in the Premier League for a few years, really impressive. And last year just had his strongest season GA-wise. But when you just watch him play, he is so good in that final third, so clean with his action, so decisive. For me, that's what I like about him. He's so decisive with his decision making, and that's one thing where I think players like Kulusevski could learn. Because Kulu's been good. He can drive through the midfield. He can get past a lot of players, but as soon as he gets to the edge of the box, it's just like he stutters. He starts to think, "Oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to shoot? Am I going to cut in? Am I going to take it on?" And it's just like we need to see him be a bit more cleaner with those actions in those moments, but at the same time, like, our players are young. I think once our players have some time under Frank, they're going to have that time to grow. They're going to learn. They're going to improve. And eventually, they're just going to get better. But I wanted to get your thoughts away from the incomings and that side of things. What are you stressed about the window? Are you where are you at with Spurs transfers as a whole? Because look, we are 24th of June. For some people, the transfer window has been open for 3 weeks, and it's like Spurs have made no moves for big players. We're seeing Wirtz go to Liverpool. We're seeing Man City sign Cherki and Reinders. Arsenal got Zubimendi. Man United got Cunha. We're seeing a lot of teams around us making moves. I think for some people that don't know, there tends to be a delay because Spurs' financial year resets on the 1st of July. So sometimes they want to get the deals in by that time or once that kicks in. But where are you at personally with the window and you know the panic of that side?
I think the panicking is died down a little bit with Frank coming in terms of at least we've got that structure sorted now. There seems to be some sort of an idea and plan as to where they're going with certain things, with the upheaval of the amount of board members that have left and that sort of stuff. So it kind of dampened down a little bit. My fear will be is if I know what you're saying about teams in and around us, but I feel like all of the players that you've named were probably out of our reach anyway. If we weren't going to sign any of them, so My fear would be if teams like Newcastle start signing, if Aston Villa start signing, if all of them teams around us start signing and we're not. I think I'm worried just because it's Spurs. I think if we was another team, then we probably would be like, well, your owner's coming out saying that. We know you're financially sound. You've got into the Champions League. So I think most other fans will probably be like, yeah, that's all right. Now they've made a couple of little signings and then they'll go big. But to be fair, I'm a little bit worried the longer it goes on. But July the 1st seems to be the kind of time for most clubs. Liverpool have barely spent anything. Everyone talking about City spending, but City haven't spent that much money for a long time. And even if they have spent money big, they've sold players. We sound about academy players like earlier. They've sold like players off James Trafford, even things like that. So their cash flow is always high, obviously, anyway, because of how much they've got. So I'm not too worried, but give it a couple more weeks and then maybe the nerves start kicking in and then you start thinking, actually, do you know what? Maybe that whole Champions League, Premier League winners is just another throwaway comment that we've heard similar sorts of stuff before. We've got our Tottenham back, etc. So I think personally as well, we've got our squad planning is so poor that we've just got so many players. There was a recent article that came out saying that we needed to sell to buy, and I think that it was misleading. I think what they were saying is you've got such a big squad, you just have to get rid of players. That's the facts. The players have to go out the door for you to be able to bring players in, because otherwise you're just going to have a bloated squad. And then we're looking at doing what we've done with Matt Doherty, players like Reguilon, Aurier, where they're just running down their contracts, etc. So I'll be a bit more worried if it turns like July. We're in the second week of July and still not got anyone.
Yeah, do you know what? For me, I'm like, if we get to August, like you say, I'd say third week of July for me, because let's say a month, 4 weeks on from now, we've not signed our marquee signing, or we've not bring in a big player, whether it says a Semenyo or someone of that ilk. Then that's when I start to really get concerned. I'm like, what is the plan here? Because far too often Spurs wait to August to start bringing in their players. And we've got big games at the start of August. We've got the Super Cup at the 13th of August. And I want to go into that game with the right team, with one of our best teams available and one of our good signings available. So definitely, panic stations will be alerted if we're still in the same position 4 weeks from now. But look, people, I can't stress it enough. Make sure you're subscribing to Luke, the newest member to the 1K gang, currently sitting at 1.0. It's nearly at 1.1. Let's try and get Luke to 1.1. Let's make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you show some love on the channel. But Luke, I just want to bring it back to you. We've got part of this show, people, that we're going to be doing is we're going to have a segment where Luke gives us his spotlight on Spurs for real. And he tells us which player he's looking at. Who's he going to want to bring in? Luke, tell us. Who have you got your spotlight on this week? And who's one of the targets you've been looking at who could improve our squad?
So this player has been rumoured to be Spurs have been rumoured to be interested in for a while. Is what I would class as a wonder kid. However, while I'm putting all of this little research together, putting up some stats and figures and having a little look, the rumour is that he's probably going to end up at Arsenal. And it came out late last night and I was like, you're joking me here. But I think we should be looking at the left back for Ajax, Jarell Hato. Yeah. Cold. Just don't get me wrong, he needs refining 100%. And a lot of people are probably going to go, hang on a minute, another youngster. You've probably been, I have been one of the ones that have been saying we need to go and sign experience. But this guy has played over 100 league games. Like you're signing a youngster who's experienced in as what you can be experienced in. Do you know what I mean? He's played it in a national level. He's played over 100 games for Ajax. Obviously, Ajax, technically, you would expect that from a technique point of view, he's going to be absolutely fine. And I didn't realise how many games he'd actually played as a left back and as a centre back as well. So obviously, talking about Frank and obviously the systems, I don't think personally he's going to play free at the back that often, but I think it will be brought in. I think it will be played when you're playing the big dogs away from home, when you're playing Champions League, then it might be an option. And this guy can kind of tick both boxes. You've got we're obviously lacking in the fullback area for the cover. And also we're lacking to cover Van de Ven.
Yeah.
Even though with the signing that we've made, people still think that Ben Davies is probably going to be the backup, and that for me it probably don't sit right. So I think if you could get him in, he could play, as I say, a little bit of left centre back. He could play left back. When he's played that amount of games, experience has been ticked off as well. This season he played 50 games alone, and also availability. When we look at Udogie, when we look at Van de Ven, they're just not fit and available enough. On Transfer Market, it says that these guys basically never had an injury. Spurs will change that, no doubt. I'm not doubting that for 1 second. Yeah. But if we're getting in players that have literally played 3 seasons, not got injuries, then you would hope that they could carry on that at Spurs. When I was looking at the clips of him, he was definitely a front foot player. He was intercepting the ball constantly. Now, you could caveat that and say that potentially is a negative as well because he lunges in so much. Yeah. But it could be a level of opposition thing where if you're playing against someone who he can dominate and he kind of goes in. Some of his crossing, some of his passing was superb. There were some crosses that he was putting in that was just outrageous. He's got 9 goal involvements this year. So he averages just under 1 in 5 this season. So for a fullback, I think that's pretty impressive. And as well, he has played centre back. I think he's 6 foot, fairly quick. As I said, Ajax Academy, so technical. Also, what I liked quite a lot of the time, in some of the clips, he was coming inside quite a lot. Mm-hmm. So you're not just getting a wing fullback; you're also getting one that's comfortable coming into the pitch in possession. Now, I know we're probably not going to operate that as much, but. Sorry, guys, but that is something that Frank operated last year when Keane Lewis Potter would be coming inside. He's a right-footed player, so that may actually happen. Presses well, as I said, like literally on the front foot. Whenever the ball's been played into that right winger, he's just on them. Like physically, aerially, there wasn't really much I could see that I would say that he's a dominant sort of fullback. That's why I think he probably played fullback a little bit more. Yeah. And he probably needs to toughen up and get a bit bigger. But as I said, he's 19 years old. So for me, I think that's sort of a player that he's for the now. He's also for the future. It's not going to be hundreds of millions or anything crazy like that. And then also it covers 2 positions, so we can then put funds elsewhere. Yeah,
no doubt about that. And just what would the price range be for him? Because I know he's well sorted after. Like, not just Tottenham are looking at him. I know Arsenal have. I know Liverpool have. I know quite a few teams have looked at him. So, is he going to come at like a £40 million, £50 million fee?
Yeah, I think he will do. I think he'll come at roughly about that 35 million on Transfer Market, but he has got something like 3-4 years still left. But you know what Ajax are like. If he turns around and says, "Look, I think it's time," Ajax have probably got another left back in their youth.
Yeah, they'll probably let him go. But...
So, it is a big amount of money, but. When you've got the potential of Romero leaving, whether he signs a new contract, then you've obviously got some money coming in there. Van de Ven, again, injuries, injured quite a lot. And then you've obviously got Dragusin. Is he going to fit in a sort of Frank system? So I feel like there could be some changes that are made in that position. As you mentioned earlier, I feel like Ashley Phillips could potentially be one that leaves. And the amount of money that we should make from players leaving this club, then I think that we could probably go out and sign 4 players at £50 million each. And that will probably be what the budget's looking at. So, as I say, versatility, I think it will be a good thing. Young player, I think he fits in well.
I do have some questions when we're looking to sign players at that price range to be a backup. Now, I do agree with you. We need depth. We need squad. So whatever the price needs to be for players that need to go on the bench, sometimes that's fine. I'm sort of getting into the space of where I don't care about fees for deals anymore. Like I just want players in. If a player is good, he's good. I don't care if we've overpaid or underpaid for him. It is what it is. I just want good players because, like you said earlier, once they're there, you don't really care about the fee of what you paid for him. You accept a good player or not. But my worry would be that, like you said, we have a certain budget that would probably be around 200 million. Don't want to allocate most of that budget towards a backup young player. That's like I said, could get a lot of minutes, but may not get a lot of minutes. So that's my only concern about the potential signing. But I do agree. I think Hato was a good player. He could easily come into our team and work as an option to be behind Van de Ven as well as Udogie, or maybe even take over Udogie's role if he's not performing. But we do have another issue that I quickly want your thoughts on, because I'm sure you're aware, homegrown, club trained, it's a problem that we've had for many years now, especially going into these European competitions. For those that don't know, to register a 25-man squad in Europe, you need to be able to have 8 club-trained homegrown players. And then 4 of each, 17 foreign players is a part of that. And your maximum amount of foreign players is 17, and then obviously you could bring in all the academies and academy players just don't really count. They don't count as part of the 25-man squad, in it. They're just there. They're around. Yep. Spurs at the moment, with the release of Alfie Whiteman, with the likes of like Skip and Winks, who we let go last year, we have a huge problem with regards to our club trained, unless we start to promote and use some of these players within the first team. What do you think the solutions can be? Because I've been seeing links to the likes of Dennis Sirkin, who was one of our academy products, who's now at Sunderland, who's just been promoted. He's actually pretty good. He's a pretty good player down on that left-hand side, but don't know if he'd be ready to come back and perform at this level. And then the other one is Kyle Walker-Peters, who obviously just been relegated with Southampton. But I think it's fair to say Southampton was above his level. He's a good player, definitely good enough for the Premier League. Maybe not Champions League, but we know what to expect of him, having many years under Pochettino, seeing him come through. Didn't really make first team, but did have some years where he was the second option below. So what do you think about the homegrown issue? How do we solve it? And I suppose the signings of Kyle Walker-Peters, Dennis Sirkin, would that impress you?
There's no perfect way to solve it, because there isn't any homegrown players that are good enough to come in and improve the 11, which is exactly what we need. However, the caveat to that is that I'm seeing loads of people say, that if we sign Kyle Walker-Peters, it's a bit of a joke. Why are we operating like this? And I completely agree. But the facts is that we're in this situation. So yeah. I'm not saying in 5 years' time we should be doing these. This should have been our approach. But the facts is this is where we're at. So people telling me that we shouldn't sign Kyle Walker-Peters, what is your other option? Your other option is to not have a player in the squad. So we're going into the Champions League. At the moment, we have one player at the club that's club trained. That's Austin. There are 3 players in the squad that are club trained. One of them is Divine, and we were already discussing whether he's good enough to be anywhere near the Premier League. One of them, Scarlett. Again, we've discussed that. Is he anywhere good enough to be in the Premier League? And the other one's Austin. So therefore, you're going into, if you don't sign these players, you're going into the Champions League with 22-man squad. That's what you're going in with, because you're going to have to leave. You can leave 3 spaces, basically. So we'll be going in with a 23-man squad. And we know what we're like with injuries. So you're essentially saying that you're happy to have nobody than Kyle Walker-Peters. And then you'll have people say, I'm sure we've got a left-back in the youth team that can come in and play. We're coming up against Champions League opposition here. You're not throwing an 18-year-old against Champions League players. Kyle Walker-Peters might not be a good enough level, but his experience, he's going to have some sort of understanding. He's played in the Premier League. He's probably had over 100, 150 appearances in the first team. So there is no other option. We're not talking about spending 40, 50 million. It's a free transfer. The Sirkin one makes less sense because there's a transfer fee that has to be paid there.
Yeah.
And if they've just brought him up, he was a main player in their team. I can't imagine them going, yeah, you can have him for a couple of million. So
he has only got 1 year left on his contract. So since we sold him to Sunderland, he's not signed a new deal. So it could be a low. I think Spurs had a buyback clause at 6 million that expired last year. It'd probably be a deal that'd be done in and around that same fee. But I get the sentiment in that sense. Like if we're going to choose either him or Kyle Walker-Peters, it would make sense to choose the player that's been at this level, who's proven, you know what to expect of him. He's also, I think he loves Tottenham, innit? He will happily come back to Tottenham, play as a backup. He was a backup before. He gets to come and play Champions League football where he played last time. And going
also,
forward,
if I was Sirkin, I wouldn't want to come to Tottenham. Because the facts is that Kyle Walker-Peters knows that the rumours are that he's happy to come back and be backup. He wants to know roughly what he's going to play and how many minutes, which he will get some. The Carling Cups, as I say, Van der Ven has not played that often, so I have a feeling that defensively we'll have some changes. So he's happy to come in. If I was Sirkin and I'm a main player in Sunderland and I've got 1 year left on my deal, I'm thinking if I come up and I have a decent season in the Premier League, I can go anywhere I want. Or I can go and sign for Spurs on a 3-4 year contract, 2 year contract, whatever. No, I'm barely going to play. So, and he's only young as well. He's only whereas Kyle Walker-Peters is 26, 27. So I just think Kyle Walker-Peters makes so much sense on so many levels. And no, that does not mean I'm happy with the situation we are in. What that means is we are in this situation. So that there has to be something that we do about it. And that's what we have to do in my eyes. And then it comes back to we have to make sure that the players that are coming through the system are good enough to compete in the first team.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think they've played, like I said there, Kyle Walker-Peters, we're not happy about the situation, but the situation is the situation. He could be a good option. 28 years of age. He will know his place in the team. He's not looking for a massive contract. Just be happy to be back at Spurs. That could be a good one. Big up to Harvey22, says Merhaba. Merhaba to you as well. Clearly taking in from Turkey. I think your team will get top 4 if you sign Lookman. I mean, Lookman's a good player. I do have some concerns regarding why no top team is coming for Lookman at the moment in the Premier League, because he had some good years at Atlanta. I've heard people say previously that players that come out of that system from Gasperini do struggle to adapt into some other ones. And we've seen Lookman come into the Premier League before at Fulham, at Everton, at Leicester, and he struggled. He definitely struggled. So I'm really not too sure about Lookman on that side of things, but he would present a good option. No doubt about that. Good will present a good option. My like Paul G doing his best impression of Unai Emery. Good evening. Good evening to you as well, Paul, man. Big up to you for checking in. Harvey22, what about Alfie Doherty? Alfie Doherty was hot on a lot of people's lists last season off the back of his strong year with Luton, but again, I'm pretty sure, did Luton get relegated again?
Yeah, but it's all come down to the club trained aspect, isn't it? That's the bottom line. That's the reason why we're talking about them players. So
he's English, which is fair, but I don't know, man. Like he played another championship season, got relegated. There's something not working out there. Defensively, he's got to be a bit messy because it's something not working out. But I did see this, and I think I saw you tweet about it. I think it was regarding Douglas Luiz. Juventus have now said that he's available for 25 million euros. And no, yes, no one's going to say, you're Douglas Luiz is here already. No. Yeah, I've got a top shot. No. But no, in all seriousness, what do you think about this signing? Because this could be a smart acquisition for a low price for a position and player profile that we need.
100%. I was one of the ones that was screaming that we needed to have like a monster 6 in Ange's system, but that was because of Ange's system. You're very isolated. Yeah. You need to make sure you've got someone in there that can be dominant. When you go to having 2 kind of deep line playmakers or 2 sit or however you want to dress it up, I think he'll be a very good player for us. Talking about finances, Douglas Luiz could potentially be like a loan to buy as well. I don't think Juve are kind of like set on having to sell him right now. You could say like we do a season loan and then we take him at the end of the season. Therefore, it leaves a little bit more of the funds available to sign the here and now players. But yeah, I like him. I think he's a decent player. I think he'll be a decent option. He'll upgrade the team at this moment in time. I think Basuma's far too inconsistent for me. And tactically probably isn't there, which is one of the issues that he's had for Conte and other managers. And not a huge fee neither. So yeah, I would definitely think that that's a good option if we can go and get him 100%. I think he'd be a good option.
We know Spurs love a good deal, and Paratici could definitely wheel and deal something over there. In Juventus, we got a good relationship with them, so I think Spurs should explore this option. We should definitely explore a deal for Douglas Luiz. He's a good player, man. Good player. Like I said, a profile that we miss. He's good on set pieces, good on corners. You need someone who's got that passing ability. So definitely a good player there. But look, people, this has been Spur of the Moment. We're going to try and bring this show on a weekly basis. If not weekly, it'll probably be bi-weekly. But we're going to try to make sure we get a show out for you with myself and Luke talking everything Spur in the moment. Make sure you guys subscribe to Luke's channel. It's in the title of the video. It's in the description. It's also the pinned comment. So you can't miss it. It's everywhere. Show some love. Show your support. Let's help Luke grow his channel. And also, for those that don't know, I'm on the road to 5K too. I'm on the road to 5K. Just hit 2.5. Real close to 2.55. So make sure you're subscribed if you're watching and you haven't subscribed already. We are back because the work rate is hard. The work rate's hard right now. 9 p.m. tonight. Boardroom talks. Mess. It's going to be chaos. And that's what we love. It's going to be a chaotic night in the boardroom. So, yeah, make sure you're back. I'm going to send this one over to that show. So you just drop a like on that show, drop a comment, let us know your thoughts. And yeah, man, Luke, you got anything coming up? Anything you want to let the people to know to look out for?
No, just a regular stream on Thursday. Got that coming up. Got a couple of the big guests coming on. That one will be quite good. We'll obviously do a little bit of transfer news and clues, and we'll see where we're at in a couple of days. Obviously, I think the deadline for July is fast approaching. I think that's when things will start really kind of heating up. So yeah, just every Thursday, 9:30, we go live. We've got always an array of guests, different opinions, talking all things Spurs.
Make sure you look out for that, people. 9:30 Thursday, Spotlight on Spurs. Subscribe to the boy. Make sure you're there for that show. Boardroom Talks, 9 p.m. We are back later on tonight. You'll see, man, like Elijah. We've got Mr. Box Office, Jacob, Jay from the Hotspur Cave, Jay Rated R from Twitter, because he's not got a channel yet, but everyone knows him because he's everywhere. And then Yao from New Spurs Order. So look out for that show. We'll see you then, people. Have a good night. God bless. And we'll be back.